A black son raised in a white home, a will with a page missing, and a lawyer hiding more than just paperwork. What none of them realized? The walls remembered everything. The afternoon sun painted gold on the windows of a law office, but for Trayvon, it might as well have been night. He stood at the door, funeral program in hand, grieving the woman who once saved his life. He came expecting closure. Instead, he got betrayal. When the will was read, Trayvon's name was absent, not overlooked, erased. His adoptive siblings exchanged smug glances. The lawyer gave a tight, rehearsed smile. Her wishes were clear, he said, but something about it felt staged. And Trayvon? He knew the smell of a setup. He was just 6 when he first arrived at the Bennett household. Small frame, big eyes, silent like a shadow. He'd learned early that quiet was armor, that people could smile with their mouths while closing their hearts. But Marianne Bennett didn't perform kindness. She simply knelt and said, "You're safe now, Trayvon. This is home." And somehow, he believed her. The Bennetts lived in a picture-perfect suburb. Fence painted, pancakes flipped, lawn mowed with military precision. But inside the walls, a different story. 2 biological kids, Luke and Paige. From day one, they treated Trayvon like furniture, there but not really seen. Luke clutched his toys tighter when Trayvon entered the room. Paige made sure the family photos on the mantle never changed. Even after the adoption was finalized, they told their friends he was just a foster kid. And Trayvon? He never shouted, never pushed back. Instead, he tried harder. He became the ghost who cleaned, studied, cooked, hoping if he were useful enough, visible would follow. Marianne saw him, always. She tucked cookies into his lunch, read him bedtime stories in hushed tones, and made quiet promises over folded laundry. "You're in my will, Trayvon. You're my son just like the others. Don't worry, I made sure." He never wanted her money, just the confirmation that he mattered, that the birthdays, the scraped knees, the whispered prayers at night weren't one-sided memories. But then she got sick, and everything shifted. The house turned cold. Luke and Paige became rare visitors, circling the house like investors, not mourners. They weren't concerned about their mother's pain, just the value of her belongings. Trayvon stayed. He became her hands, her feet, her strength. One night, Marianne asked him to set up a small camera in her study. Just for peace of mind, she said. People had been rummaging. He didn't question it. He knew her instincts were rarely wrong. After she passed, Trayvon mourned in silence. At the funeral, he wore his grief like armor, polished and unreadable. But inside, he held on to every bedtime story, every whispered promise. At the will reading, tension choked the room. Sunlight bounced through stained glass, mocking the cold that settled between the siblings. Luke sat smug. Paige wore a mask of pity that didn't reach her eyes. Trayvon sat alone. The family lawyer, Mr. Ellison, shuffled papers like a magician ready to perform. "Your mother updated her will recently," he said with a sigh that reeked of performance. Trayvon leaned in. That wasn't possible. She had told him otherwise. "Only one valid version exists. This one," Ellison continued, sliding a set of pages across the desk. "Witnessed, final, legal." Trayvon's name wasn't on a single line. Luke's smirk widened. Paige avoided his gaze. The will gave everything to them. Trayvon had been vanished on paper, his mother's promises erased, but Trayvon's sorrow gave way to suspicion. Because he remembered the camera, the one she asked him to install. Quiet, hidden, watching. And suddenly the silence that surrounded her final days had a witness. A silent eye behind the bookshelf, an observer no one else knew about. The will may have forgotten him, but the footage, it remembered everything. He said nothing, not yet. But he had the password, the evidence, the truth. And soon they'd all hear what the walls had seen. He rose from the chair like someone shedding old skin. One nod, no words wasted, appreciate the chat.
Guess charity cases don't always cash out.
You might want to hold that thought. That night the silence in the house was a living thing, pressing in from every corner. Trayvon sat in his childhood room, untouched by time, the kind of quiet battlefield where memory and regret wrestle in the dark. He opened his laptop, the one tied to a feed only 2 people ever knew about, her and him. Weeks had passed, maybe it had nothing, maybe the footage was corrupted, empty. Then the screen sparked to life, dim and grainy like a ghost returning. There he was. Mr. Ellison, stepping into her study alone, the same study where she'd lived her final days. He moved with the confidence of someone rehearsing a lie. Papers were rifled, drawers pried open, and then, as if choreographed, he pulled a document from his briefcase, a forged will. He slid it into place, folding her real one like yesterday's news and burying it in his file. But the betrayal wasn't done. Luke stood in the shadows behind him, saying nothing, watching, co-signing the crime with silence. Trayvon's fingers hovered above the mouse, frozen. For years the betrayal had been background noise, a hum behind closed doors. Now it blared like sirens. This wasn't greed. This was a clean-cut mutiny, a legacy, amputated and reattached to strangers. But now he had more than suspicion. He had digital gospel. He sat back, not crying, not blinking, just burning with focus. The screen's glow lit his face like a ritual flame. In the quiet hum of the machine he found resolve. Then came another video, 12 days before her death. The camera, just where she had asked it to be, perched high in the study's corner. His mother appeared, small in frame but steady as stone. She looked into the lens and spoke.
This is to make sure the truth outlives me. My will is clear. Divide it equally between my children. Yes, all three. Luke, Paige, and Trayvon.
Trayvon's breath hitched. Her words sliced through years of rejection like a hot blade.
I know some of you questioned him. Some never wanted him. But he is mine, and he is enough.
She coughed, hiding weakness in a crumpled handkerchief. Then she pulled out a folder, holding it close to the lens.
This is the signed will. If it goes missing, know this. I never changed my mind.
Then the video cut to black. Trayvon leaned closer. His pulse wasn't just racing, it was pounding like a war drum. Another clip loaded. 4 days later, Ellison again, alone again, confident again. He opened the drawer, pulled the folder, the real will, and slipped in a thicker replacement. And just like clockwork, Luke reappeared.
No one will question a thing.
Trayvon paused the playback, his face unreadable. There was no need for anger. He had outgrown fury. He downloaded the files, transferred them to a flash drive, closed the laptop. Time to move. The next morning, Mr. Ellison looked up from his desk and for the first time saw a storm in Trayvon's eyes. A man with nothing to lose, and proof. Trayvon didn't sit. He walked straight up, placed the flash drive on the desk like it was a detonator.
What's this?
A reminder of the last time you were in my mother's study. Ellison reached for the drive, but Trayvon raised a hand. You should think very carefully before pressing play. For a man who made a living off poker faces, Ellison's composure cracked just enough. Eyes flicked, breath caught. She asked me to install a camera. She said she wanted to feel safe. Turns out she had good reason. Ellison's hand trembled. You'll fix the will. Today. Or I'll send copies to the bar, the police, and every paper from here to New York. Silence fell. And in that silence, the weight of consequence landed. Ellison nodded. Slowly, mechanically. Like someone realizing their mask had just peeled off in public. Trayvon didn't gloat. He didn't lean in or deliver a punchline. He turned, walked out. He wasn't chasing revenge. He was reclaiming truth. Later, the Bennett family gathered in the lawyer's conference room. The kind of room meant to impress. Floor-to-ceiling windows, marble floors, and an air of expensive lies. At the far end sat Ellison, looking smaller than usual. Luke lounged back, smug like always. Paige didn't even look up from her phone. To them, Trayvon was the ghost. The mistake, the footnote. Until he reached into his coat and pulled out the flash drive. I think everyone should see this. Ellison flinched.
Trayvon, now's not really the...
But Trayvon had already plugged it in. The TV blinked. There she was, their mother. Unfiltered, unshaken, undeniable. Speaking truth from the grave, louder than any of them ever dared while she was alive. I've made it clear, her voice rang out from the screen like the last echo in a cathedral. What I own belongs to my 3 children equally. The room cracked open like ice underfoot. Paige's phone hit the table with a clatter. Luke straightened in his chair, the smirk dissolving from his face. Mr. Ellison, once a portrait of poise, turned the color of old paper. And then came the second clip. No narration, no music. Just the raw betrayal of silent images. Ellison creeping through the study like a man with secrets stitched into his skin, fingers moving with rehearsed precision. Swap, replace, steal. Done? He whispered. Handled, Ellison replied. Trayvon's voice echoed with a powerful accusation. You didn't just steal a document, you silenced her. You buried her voice beneath your ambition. Paige's realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. Oh my God, she whispered, her shock mirrored in Luke's silent stare. Trayvon's voice carried a resolute truth. She didn't inherit me, she chose me. No signature forged in darkness can erase the love she gave in daylight. The door creaked. 2 officers entered like punctuation at the end of a lie. Mr. Ellison? You're misunderstanding. He was escorted out, each step a brick falling from the empire he'd built on deceit. The will was declared tampered. The law would take its turn. Charges loomed. Luke collapsed back, eyes vacant. Paige looked away. I didn't come for your regret, he said, pausing only long enough for them to hear it echo. I came for the truth. And with that, he stepped out, not just of the room but of the narrative they'd written without him. Outside, the leaves had changed their minds, dressing the world in amber and fire. The Bennett home stood quieter now, less a place, more a confession. Trayvon hadn't returned. He didn't need to. Closure isn't a door you knock on, it's the one you build when the old ones lock you out. He stood now before a modest brick building, no statues, no marble, just a window with a sign in careful paint, Bennett Justice Fund. He stood now before a modest brick building, no statues, no marble, just a window with a sign in careful paint, Bennett Justice Fund. Inside there are no mahogany desks or power suits, just truth in denim and drive. Books are stacked like weapons and resources are lined up like lifelines. Anyone come by? Trayvon asks, his voice filled with curiosity. A girl from East Briar, responds the young woman. She thinks her guardian faked her school records to claim benefits. Let's help her, Trayvon says with determination, because this is why he did it. Not for revenge, not for applause, but so another child wouldn't get erased and never know it. Because the truth doesn't shout. It waits, quiet, patient, until someone hears it. He remembered the judge's words, the day the real will was restored. Mr. Bennett, you didn't just win a case, you reminded the court what integrity looks like. But Trayvon didn't feel heroic, just human, just a man who refused to vanish. Ellison's empire crumbled in the press. Luke ghosted from public view. Paige mailed a letter, brief, awkward, apologetic. Trayvon never replied, not out of bitterness, but because he no longer needed to justify being here. His mother had already spoken for him, with her voice, her will, and the unshakable truth that he mattered. And now that truth lived in every case he took, every injustice he unwrapped, every trembling hand he taught to make a fist and fight back. And now that truth lived in every case he took, every injustice he unwrapped, every trembling hand he taught to make a fist and fight back. He leaned against the doorway as the sun stretched across the street. A boy passed with his father. He paused, read the painted glass aloud. Bennett, Justice. That place helps people who've been cheated. The boy blinked up at Trayvon, offered a shy nod, and skipped off. Trayvon stood there for a moment, a breath caught in his throat. This was family, not the one you're born into, the one you build. And in a world that once called him invisible, Trayvon had responded in the loudest way possible, with proof. Because truth doesn't need permission to exist. It just needs someone strong enough to carry it. And finally someone had.